What's up, everybody? It's Will
And Chris.
from The High Five and Knuckles Up. And is tournament arm wrestling dead? That's what we're here to talk about today. Sorry, I just called up our man Chris here. But yeah, is tournament arm wrestling dead, Chris?
See, I think a lot of people are starting to think so. I think from at least when I started, which isn't crazy long time ago, but a lot of the goals were, all right, I want to be the number one in this specific like tournament, whether it was the Arnold or WAF Worlds or whatever. But I think that's slowly turning into, okay, where can I get the best super match or the biggest super match that could pull like a specific person, which I don't think is a good or bad thing.
Yeah, I definitely think it's becoming more exposure based, right? The sport is like, what can I do to make the biggest splash? And then I just want to do that so I can get on, Knuckles Up or King of the Table or East vs. West, that type of thing. Obviously, being the biggest promotions in the world, that's what people are aiming for. So the real question is tournament arm wrestling dead, or is it making a resurgence? Now, obviously, we are biased because we are bringing arm wrestling back to the Arnold Classic in 2025, but I don't think it's dead. I think it just needs the right people to run it.
Yeah, and I think I think they serve their purpose. I just want to say what's up to James. I think he's going to be coming down to our qualifier.
Oh
Next month.
yeah.
He did awesome at the King of the Table, especially him against Paul Cruz. That was
Oh, that's James. Yes.
But yeah, so I think they kind of serve their purpose, right? I think when it comes to the Arnold and to like WAF Worlds and IFA and things like that, they give essentially the up and comers or people that don't have such a huge like social media following or aren't like these anomalies like Levon an opportunity to kind of show themselves, right? To showcase their talent and to show how dominant you are. You know what I mean?
100%.
To kind of prove that, all right, maybe you should get a one-on-one. Because in my opinion, when you're in a tournament, it's so hard to tell who's really at the top unless you completely dominate the class.
Yeah, and tournaments really are more suited for those guys that have their ace move, that have honed it in really well, not as much for well-rounded arm wrestling athletes who can do different lanes, that type of stuff. But I think the reason why specifically I brought up that it needs some, new life pumped into the tournaments is people like, for example, Ryan Grind with a 98%, right? Winter Blast, right? You guys want to talk about a tournament that is absolutely incredible. Make sure you get to Winter Blast after you come to the Arnold Classic, because what he's doing there is absolutely incredible. It really is one of the biggest tournaments in the entire USA, if not just, the Northeast. It's absolutely incredible. He runs it super well, and it is a day full of arm wrestling, of high production, and just a really high-class sport. I think that's what will revitalize the sport, right? Obviously, I know there's, politics between WAF and IFA and this and that and whatever. I think we are all working towards creating a system of rules and regulations that is adopted across the board, and I think that will eventually happen. But as of right now, it's like, really we're pumping, not just ourselves but a lot of groups into money into the pay-per-view super match space. But I'd like to see something like more of these round robins happening and stuff like that.
No, I agree, and I think another good one is the World Series of Arm Wrestling. They're a really good promotion.
That's right, Greg Sharp.
Yeah, I think what it kind of shows is like I feel again like different goals, right? When you have the pay-per-view kind of model, I think a lot of it, yes, is to get a lot of arm wrestlers to watch, but also to get a lot of non-arm wrestlers involved to grow the sport. Where I think again, because us living in the US, we have a lot of like sport like fans. You could be a sport fan if you've done it before, or if you've kind of been like immersed in it from like a young age. But for us, we're trying to get people that like actually arm wrestle to want to be invested, right?
Yeah.
So like you can't forget to reinvest in the people that arm wrestle. You know what I mean? So if you don't have any good tournaments out there, the pullers just want to pull.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of like the moral of the story. You got to invest in both camps.
Yeah, and of course, excuse me, it is creating, like we've said before, a farm system as something that people can follow and understand that, hey, if I compete at these tournaments, then I make it to, for example, I'll just give us like the Arnold. Then if I win my class at the Arnold, then I'll make it to a Knuckles Up pay-per-view and now be on that world stage versus, before it was just like, hey, if you stick around long enough and you get good enough, you might just get noticed. But now it's like, no, I have to win these tournaments I have to then get to the Arnold. I have to
Like another thing that you just kind of highlighted, which is really important, is I think historically a lot of it was like, oh, who or like trying to reach out to the main promoter to try to get your name on there. I think having an established kind of like ladder to climb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, football, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, I got to do like pee-wee football, and then I do it in like middle school, high school, and then I get recruited into like a college, and
Yep.
hopefully eventually, because I did really well at a D1 school, I went to like the NFL, right? Kind of like we've seen with Travis's son, right? um I think with arm wrestling, that's one thing that's kind of like tough. It's like, okay, I think we've seen a lot now. It's like WAF champions are the ones that'll kind of get put on like East versus West. But I think it's also because that's like the biggest like tournament out there in Europe, right?
Sure.
So, or one of. So that makes sense. If you want a lot of European exposure, you're going to go there. But I think for here, where WAF isn't as prevalent, it's kind of like a guessing game. Like, where should I go to be able to get on these big promotions?
You should go to the Arnold Classic 2025.
Exactly. And I think again, that's something we're trying to establish, and it's not saying that's the only way. That's if you want to be part of Knuckles Up, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, since everyone here is watching, first of all, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching on Instagram or Facebook, give us a follow because we have all of our updates coming to you. And if you didn't know already, we are running a special for in-person tickets at Knuckles Up 5, January 25th at the Barrymore Film Center in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Buy one, get one until January 1st. That is a unheard of deal because we want you guys to enjoy it, and we're giving back to the community to let you guys have arm wrestling for the new year. So grab those now. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. The code is KU2024.
That's correct.
KU2024. So back to tournaments. Like I said, are they dead? Are they alive? I think we've established that they are definitely on a resurgence. But Chris, let's give them a little background about our first tournaments and how they went. So which was your first ever tournament that you competed in?
That's a good question. So funny enough, I know a lot of people, at least from recent experience, it's like, oh, I need to get a lot of experience before I go. I actually only went to like one practice, and it was
before you went to a tournament.
Yeah, and it was I was at a beast mode practice, and then I went to my first tournament, which was Marcio Barbosa's like NJ State for like WAL.
Okay.
And yeah, like that was a really interesting experience. It was at I forget the name, not Blackthorn. It
like
was
a bar or something?
Yeah, it was actually in this area. Like I'm not from this area. I grew up and lived like I want to say 30-40 minutes south from here. But I went up to this area, had no idea what I was doing. Tilted Kilt, maybe I think it was called.
Oh yeah, I know the Tilted Kilt is, yeah.
So yeah, did it there, and yeah, it was a really awesome experience. I mean, that's where I saw like team arm wrestling too for the first time. Like a lot of the time I just knew it from Game of Arms.
Was it the Stone Pony?
Possibly. No, that
someone's asking on Instagram.
That sounds familiar, but no, I'm not sure. Sorry, it was so long ago. And it was like the first time I was so like, oh my god, arm wrestling's a real thing. There's these huge guys. That's why I first saw Sean Latimer, and he looked like a freaking mountain of a man. Oh, Joe Galgochi. I saw him for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, I hope I don't have to pull that guy. But yeah, it was a really good experience. How about yourself?
So for me, I believe it was 2.5 years ago now, roughly, or about 2 years ago now, actually. Also, shout out to some of the people we have in here. Justin from the team is up live on Instagram. Sean Hancock is in the house, and Sarah Ray. We got all the people coming out. But my first tournament ever was actually 2022 Keystone, I think so, or 23.
I think 22.
Yeah, 2022 Keystone States in Pennsylvania. Awesome first experience. For any of you guys who were there that year, I can guarantee you that, oh my goodness, put the phone down. Miss Chalet is in the house. What's happening? How's everything? Tell Laz we said hi. Hope you guys are doing well. But my first tournament, like I said, was Keystone State in 2022. It was an outdoor tournament in Pennsylvania. Beautiful day, beautiful summer. What an incredible experience. I remember they had
2 pro tables, I think, or 1 or 2 pro tables going on. They had like 2 amateurs and then 2 novice or something like that. So about 6 tables going on. And all I'll never forget is you, Chris, I get hyped when
that went viral.
It went nuts. Everyone was like, what? Even the announcer was like, what is going on at the amateur table over there? It's getting crazy. It's getting awesome. It's getting nuts. Da, 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 da. And we were having a blast. The high five showed up in massive fashion that day. Shout out to my man Federico. We miss you. He did awesome. I did. Everybody. We just had a killer day. And it was so cool because it was outside. Within the first 10 minutes I'm there, this wasn't cool, but it was good to experience. I hear and I see an arm break as I walk by a table, which was absolutely nuts. My now fiance was like, well, babe, what are we doing here? What's happening? I was like, don't worry, that doesn't happen often. My first tournament was absolutely awesome. But yeah, shout out to Ryan Espy in the house, Maria and Steve Fernandez. We have everybody jumping in here, especially on the YouTube. But Chris, we got a great question from Mike Stiuso, I think it is. The jump from pro to amateur, is it big?
Yeah, I guess I can answer that. So I feel like it's tough, right? In our sport, at least in America, there is no definitive like determination of what is a pro and what is an amateur.
No,
right?
like pro card or anything like that.
Exactly. Unlike, bodybuilding or whatever, right? So it's tough. I feel like when you go to certain, because other terms will have novice or have, whatever semi-pro, right? But to answer your question, the way I look at it is amateur is like a smaller pool of people. That's someone that has never arm wrestled to maybe 1 to 3 years of experience. But then when you go to pro, it's essentially like you went from a pond to the ocean, because it's like you went from 3 to eternity because you can pull till your arms fall off, right? So it's tough. I think a lot of that also comes with the stigma of like, oh, am I ready to go pro, right? Because you're worried about, am I going to pull like one of the best in the world, in my
which could happen.
But yeah, I think we've talked about it in the past, like trying to tell our members when they're ready to go. I feel like you'll know yourself. It, like, especially for myself, right? When I competed in, usually it's local tournaments that are most accessible, and you'll place like top 3 or even just dominate that tournament alone, especially depending on like your exposure here in the Northeast. There's so many tournaments and so many good pullers. So if you're performing well consistently, it's kind of not a challenge for you anymore,
Yeah. I think like a big point like you just made is like when you're going into these amateur tournaments and you're medaling every single tournament for like a few months in a row, especially if you're taking first, like you said, it's time to move up to the pro class. Now, I think what ends up happening is a lot of people get scared of sorry, I have to pause here. Levi Prince said in his first tournament he went up against Richard Lupkes. That sounds like a horrible day.
And a really awesome.
I mean, awesome, but yeah. So I think I know I've yelled at people on our team, and I've yelled at people like at tournaments, like, dude, just pull pro, right? Because you see them and they're stonewalling all of the amateurs. But then obviously, if they were to go into pro, that wouldn't happen. So I think we have to remember that it's all about a progression and moving forward. Like Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, right? I did my first amateur, and then my next tournament was pro level, right? We did the Arnold.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, it was that Arnold qualifier we held. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that's what everyone should do, but the point is I had a coach in my corner that said, look, you did well at that tournament, and after assessing me on the table, we're like, I think you could do well enough in the pro level to where you could at least hang.
Yeah.
And was it hard? Oh, yeah, it was like ridiculous, but I think I did pretty decent,
And you qualified for the Arnold.
Yeah, qualified. I took 5th of the Arnold in the super heavyweight class, which I'm pretty happy about.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think a big part of this too, though, is like athletes need to put their egos aside, and they need to learn that it's okay to lose because you're going to lose for a long time.
Yeah, and it sucks because it's discouraging for someone that's new to the sport, where they go to amateur and they'll have this misconception of what it is to pull amateur. They're going to pull somebody and be like, wow, I can't even move that guy.
You mean pro?
No, so like if a pro stays an amateur, if that makes sense.
I gotcha.
Like a guy will come in and they're like, man, is arm wrestling even for me? And it's like, no, it's because you're pulling a guy that's been pulling for like 6 years that doesn't want to like
doesn't want to move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, that sucks. But we do have some good comments in here. So James had mentioned, one thing that could kind of help with the tournament setting, right, is to start off with bigger prizes. I think that'll help attract, bigger names to the tournaments. Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think especially if the budget can handle it, that is a big revenue driver.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but that's a really good point. But the question I'll throw back at you is, like, for example, what I think people forget is all of these tournaments and everything, now that we've been on the opposite side of it, take a lot of funds to make happen, right? Whether it's rentals, organization, paying people, paying refs, that type of stuff, right? How much, and let us know in the chat all over lives, how much would you pay to join into a tournament where, let's say, like, first place in every weight class is $1,000, right? Like, me, I would pay like $150, right off the bat, maybe even $200. But when you go to tournaments and it's $40 to sign up, you can't expect to be paid out, $1,000 when only 40 people show up to the tournament, right?
That's a very good point.
So, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but I think a big part of this too is I think James mentioned this, is just getting more people involved, right? So then you can have these tournaments like Winter Blast where there are, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of entries. So now that pool actually can be bigger and we can make bigger cash prizes. Like, it would be awesome if, like, every local tournament you go to could give out like $500+ as, like, to the first prize winner, right? Like, that would be awesome, right? But it just takes more people.
It is funny too, because I've heard the other end of that, where people will hear that like a big name will be going, and that'll also discourage them.
Yeah,
they were like, damn, like, he's going, well, if all three of those guys are like world champs, well, what's the point of me going? I'm not gonna get my money's worth.
It's so stupid, right? It's like they've earned that right to compete. So now that they've been competing for 15 years, now they're not allowed to go pull at pro tournaments. It's like I think like, let me ask you, Chris, like, when you, side note, 2024 Winter Blast 176 right arm champion over here.
Oh my god, I gotta lift it while I can.
Take your shirt off, give me my babies.
Too funny.
Sorry, they love you, Chris. How do you feel like if you go to, let's say I'm assuming you're going to try to compete at Winter Blast this year, right? Retain your title. Let's say, I'm trying to think of a famous 176er.
Like Sam Harris is in there, yeah.
Let's say Sam Harris is coming at your competition, right? How do you feel? Are you like, oh, let's go? Or are you like, oh man, I don't want to go?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like again, I'd love to pull Sam. He's a really, like, I've seen the
watch out Sam
WAL, and like, huge fan, right? I know he's not as active as he used to be, but I think it's a great opportunity, right? I think, especially with our sport the way it is, it's not like weightlifting or something where 45 pounds is 45 pounds no matter what the day is, right? A lot of it is matchup, and you really don't know your progression until you get like tested, you know what I mean? So you can't like know how far you've come if you keep beating people you can beat.
Oh yeah, very very good point. Sean Hancock made a good point. Big names draw a bigger crowd than they discourage. I definitely agree. I think there's also like a novelty factor of, right, like and also, and I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here. Let's just say, right, I'm going to try to do Winter Blast this year, and I want to pull, obviously I'm going to pull in the supers, and all of a sudden Corey West is there, right, because I'm pulling on the left. People got to remember, like, these are like normal guys. So like, I would walk up to Corey and be like, Corey, I'm not going to beat you. Can we just start slow and like, can I just like, can you just pin me slow? Or like, hey, take it easy on me. Like, I've never met a pro that's like, fuck you, I'm gonna run through you like a train. Like, they're like normal dudes. If you're like, I want to get hurt, I'm gonna lay my arm down for you, like, they'll totally let it happen. Which I think is a really good point, like, or he's saying, Sean's also saying maybe Corey will pull 176.
Oh yeah, I've pulled Corey before. That guy's a freaking monster.
Hell, Chris will whoop his ass.
Not in the I mean,
Chris, you will whoop his butt.
No, I remember, dude, I pulled Corey years ago at like IFA Worlds when I was in Florida.
You're talking about Ayers Corey, right?
Yeah, Corey Miller. Yeah.
Corey Miller, yeah.
And dude, it was like literally pulling like a robot. Like I could feel like normally someone will grip up with you and they're like kind of set in what they're trying to do, or they're trying to fight for one specific thing. Like, I could just feel him like analyzing like every little thing that I was doing, and I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I was like, "Damn, this guy's predicting the future." But
I
yes,
must suck.
yeah, no, dude, he's great. Oh, funny comment by Ryan Espy here. Have we seen the drones? Yes, that's true in our area.
I told Chris I actually did see it like it was a week and a half ago now.
I think so.
I
Yeah, it's
saw
been a while
one
back.
when I was driving to ShopRite,
Mm-hmm.
local food store around here. And it just like kind of passed over the parking lot very quickly. So I don't know. I don't know what they're scanning. Maybe they're looking for arm wrestlers. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, that's too funny.
Good question we got here on Instagram from that same Mike Stiuso. I hope I'm saying that right. How do you guys train your rise, cupping, side pressure, and pronation? Well, here I'll just do my favorite for one or two of them. So for rise, my favorite is with a karate belt over the the second digit of your finger, just straight up. That looks horrible on camera.
Nice.
But just rising with a karate belt on a cable machine. And then for pronation, I also like the karate belt around the thumb, wrapping around the back on a cable machine. That's my two favorites. What about you, Chris? What about for cupping and side pressure?
Yeah, so funny enough, like because Will is kind of the master when it comes to like weights and knowing how to best utilize that for training onto the table. Like for myself, it's a lot of like table training specific, especially with our team constantly growing and people being at various levels. If you have the benefit of having like a good crew to train with, I kind of like look for what people's strengths are. So I'm like, oh, okay, I know, for example, Omar on our team, crazy top roll, right? Low hand top roll. So I'll work with him and I'm like, all right, I want to work on trying to cup him. You know what I mean? And I might tell him like, hey, and it's tough, right? Because he's not going to give you a specific weight, but I might say, all right, pull me with like 50%, 75%, and let's ease into it. So I can try to see if I can cup you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And same with side pressure. Like I know again, his brother Fernando, crazy side pressure. So I might say like, all right, instead of just flashing me, can we like slowly get into it? And I'm going to try to build up the pressure. You know what I mean? Try to condition my elbow. And I think that aside from having a big team, it's about having good people to train with. You're only as good as the people you train with. So as long as they're not trying to rip your arm off like every second they get, you can progress really quickly.
I know I was working with, shout out to Chris from iPackage, one of our sponsors. We were on the table and I was doing one of the ones you taught me where, I get him in a hooked position and I use my other hand and peel his cup open and bring it back and peel his cup open and bring it back. And I do that for 5 to 6 reps where he's just resisting. And then they bring it back. I think doing those like hand to hand exercises, I guess we'll call them, is super valuable. Real quick, got a shout out Paul Lynn in the house on Instagram. Paul, January 25th, Knuckles Up 5, front row seat waiting for you. Just give us a ring. And also to Ted, Big Ted is in the house.
Hey, what's up?
Practice Sunday, dude. Come on down. Do we have any comments here on the YouTubes, Chris?
Yeah, so James had some really good points, right? So he ended up feeling that he moved up after getting 3 amateur first place wins. Yep,
that's a good point.
That's a really good point. And yeah, he kind of agreed with us, right, with that catch-22 about some people now complaining, for example, Winter Blast, if it's too big of a tournament, no one is really happy. And then yeah, he kind of agreed with us too, with in terms of like he wants to pull those big names. So and I think James, obviously, you're really at that level. So for sure, we are also curious, where you're at. He said, Devin, if we go Archdog, he said if Devin was at the table instead of holding you like Corey, would he just laugh in your face?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think it's part of the experience, right?
Yeah. And Sean Hancock, that is a very good point. Tournaments are one of the best ways of training in the sense of you get to feel the most grip ups than you normally would. So it definitely allows you to try, all different pulling styles and stuff like that.
Yep. And then let's see. Neil's index finger. Please don't get discouraged because of who's pulling. It's because it's nice to have idea of levels and easier to gauge your own progress. I'd love to level up this year and earn a match at Knuckles Up. Hey, man, I mean, there's definitely a possibility. Like we said, there's essentially that farming system going through the Arnold and those qualifiers. So yeah, the road's ahead of you. Just grab it.
It's going to be absolutely wild. Going to be a crazy weekend full of arm wrestling. We're going to have super matches, round robins, and of course the tournament itself. So we are very, very, very pumped about that. But
we got Dan's in as well.
Oh, what's up, brother?
Another regular. What's up, brother?
How we doing? But yeah, so I think it's safe to say that tournament and arm wrestling is not dead. I think it's just it was in a lull for a little while and it's coming back, right? It's back, it's on the rise. Obviously, we know, Arms for Entertainment hosts some good tournaments.
Yep.
Obviously, of course, Sean Hancock in the chat as well holds some great tournaments. And of course, as we mentioned, 98% with Winter Blast. And ourselves, I have to say, I think we run a pretty good tournament.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And we've had the benefit of especially because of the Arnold, we've met great promoters essentially all over the globe.
Yes.
Like you have Tri-State Arm Wrestling that's in our area as well. You have the guys down in Virginia, Dan,
TAL.
Exactly. You have what do you call it? Some all the way in Bulgaria. We have some all the way in Poland, Korea. So I think a lot of it, like, it's funny when a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know how to start arm wrestling. Like for us, it's like, man, we can't find an open weekend. So
oh, it never stops.
yeah.
Guys, it never stops. Also, Ryan Ballesteros.
God, he's
Ballesteros.
I think he canceled the trips to the Arnold specifically for this moment.
Ryan, what's up, brother? We will see you at the Arnold. We have it's gonna be from what Sean is saying, they're gonna have a absolutely wild winter blast.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. But you know what, Chris? And I'm going off the cuff here.
Oh man, all right.
Because we have all these people watching. Give your honest opinion of how much bullshit the King's Move is. Go.
Interesting. So I think,
tell them. I know Devin sucks at arm wrestling.
Funny enough, I feel like it's not as I don't want to say unique, but like unbeatable move as it was before.
I think everyone has kind of figured it out now.
Yeah, and I think people are like starting to learn how to use their strengths to kind of combat it. I think I remember before it was like Michael Todd did the King's Move and Crazy George, and it was one of the, and obviously like Sveton, and I was like, oh man, like if you get caught in their King's Move, it's like you're done. I think nowadays it's like, all right, Gennady kind of showed the way of how to beat it, and it's like, all right, cool. Like if you get caught in it, yeah, but if you kind of set up correctly, you can get away from it too.
If you take your time, you'll just be able to get through it.
Yeah, and I think the rules have also modified, right? It's like, all right, make sure that the humerus is in our shoulder, isn't below, the table line, and I think that's a better way to make sure that it's fair as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. So especially someone like Michael Todd, right? He can't even straighten his arm, so it gets a little bit more difficult with him. Which I think I think it's the years of abuse, but like that's the way he trains. That's the position he wants to be in, right? Personally, I think it's the biggest. Let me rephrase. I think it's one of the most. It is one of the most boring matches you can watch when there's a big King's Move, because it ends up just becoming an endurance match a lot of the times, like who can just hold out longer in this like outstretched position, and then we have the refs telling them to come up because their humerus is getting too low and that type of stuff. If it were me, I don't think you could ever outlaw a King's Move, but I think it would need to be a little bit different. Like maybe it's that the humerus can, like, it has to be like in a positive angle, not even at neutral, or there's a really good video, guys. Check out. It was Devin and who am I forgetting that pulled Marcio in a hook battle on WAL that I love the match. My favorite one of all time. Krasimir. Thank you very much. See, this is why we're friends. So Krasimir and Devin were having a conversation at King of the Temple in Atlantic City about the King's Move. Because Krasimir is very much against the King's Move, understandably, right? Massive hook puller. But yeah, I think it just don't get me wrong. Is there skill involved in the King's Move? Of course. Right. But I feel like it is becoming people's offensive move now, which I think is horrible.
Yeah, and I guess it depends, right? Like I feel like defensive, it's more difficult to beat, because now I think that's essentially like how the rules would work, right? Like, it's okay if you're in the King's Move. If you're offensive, it's when you get defensive and now your arm is completely straight, and it's like, all right, how am I supposed to beat this guy? His arm's already straight. I'd have to break his arm. You know what I mean, to beat him.
Oh, exactly. I think that was part that Krasy was talking about. So for some of these guys who literally are stuck like this, what he was saying is, and you reminded me, is like there needs to be some level of well, does their arm straighten? Because now if they're in a bone lock, they're not even arm wrestling anymore. You know what I mean? Now they're just resting.
Oh,
And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's no more like if the muscle isn't activated, the muscle isn't activated, right? And I think it's rare that many people are like that. But for example, someone like a Sveton might actually be able at some point to be able to rest on his bone lock.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. I'm not in his body, but it seems like they might be able to.
James did have a good question, real quick. Yes, that is true. The last chance qualifier for the Arnold is going to be the Saturday, January 25th, right before the pay-per-view. So definitely get a chance. The weigh-ins will be from 8 to 9, and then tournament itself will start at 10.
Yep, that's a perfect segue. Real quick, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you're on any other platform, please give us a follow. And just remember that we are bringing arm wrestling back to the Arnold Classic. As Chris had mentioned, the last chance qualifier will be on January 25th. The morning before Knuckles Up 5. Knuckles Up 5 is going to be absolutely crazy. It is our biggest card yet with some of the best athletes from around the world. We have Jordan coming back against Farid Usmanov. It's going to be absolutely crazy headliner match. Gabby Vasconcelos, and the names just keep coming. Matsurengi's coming back. Heidi, so many incredible athletes that we could go through this for the next 30 minutes. It's going to be absolutely crazy. That being said, guys, you definitely want to get involved. And of course, in March, it's going to be the Arnold Classic. It's going to be crazy. Hey, yeah, and we have so many cool updates coming for you guys. But to finish up the wrap, the King's move is bullshit, and you shouldn't do it. Right, Chris?
Hey, to each is their own. To each is their
Don't
own.
be nice, Chris. Tell them the truth.
I think
Sean Hancock agrees that the King's move is total trash.
Well, here, Mike has a good question. Who would win? Someone with a strong cup, inside arm wrestler, or someone with strong pronation who's an outside puller or outside arm wrestler?
Like who has the advantage in general?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's a good question, Mike. I think honestly it's like what they call immovable object meets like an unstoppable force, right? It's like which one will give first. I wouldn't really say that one is a definitive like answer to the other.
Well, I would say, I guess the only thing I could say is what's up, Rand Manzilla? How you doing, brother?
What's up, Randy?
Randy, how are you, brother? We just saw Randy at King of the Table.
Yeah. Also,
so I think my answer to that would be, and I'm very controversial with this. We've talked about this for a long time. Is that I still believe that the cup is the most important strength to have in all of arm wrestling.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe if that's kind of what he's asking. Yeah, it's tough, right, Mike? Because like I feel arm wrestling a lot is like rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the timing of when you kind of use your tools and stuff like that is gonna play a huge factor there. Yeah, I mean, I'm ton into like hand control, so I'm not I'm not gonna disagree with you. But I am super susceptible with someone with a strong rise. So in my head, I'm like, man, I wish I had a stronger rise. So
exactly. I think it's one of those, and it also depends on, how are you built? Like someone like a Devin, right? Like his pronation is much more important than his cup, even though his cup is important. There are times he'll give up his wrist and just keep the pronation. For another example, Toddzilla, right? But I think as a general, the cup can give you more off the go and can save you a lot more than pronation can. And it's a larger muscle group, let's not forget, that can be made in terms of overall strength stronger than a pronation. So I personally think the cup is the most important in arm wrestling. Only second, and then pronation is the only thing second to it, right? I think pronation is the next most important thing. But my mortal enemy just joined into the arm wrestling.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration.
The bane of my existence. The man
he's a really nice
will
guy.
Get destroyed. I'm just kidding. I love Leroy. Leroy, what is happening, brother? Hope you're doing well. Leroy just joined in on Instagram. Hope you're doing well, brother. I see he's getting dumb strong.
Yeah, especially
Leroy's
that
getting
left hand,
crazy. I saw him at the Olympia. I was like, let's have a left arm. I don't have to rescind that. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can hang with him anymore.
Let's postpone that for later.
Let me not fall apart anymore. But what's up, Leroy? I hope you're doing well, brother.
Yeah. Talking about falling apart, actually, Randy, possible soon collaboration. He's came out with him and his company came out with super cool zip ties.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So we're gonna talk more about that. Probably come out some cool collaboration with that.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Happy holidays to you too, Leroy.
Thanks, brother.
Hope everything's going well.
So Niels and Nixmaker had a comment here. You need a lot of crazy lat and pronations effectively use an open top roll. Essentially, king's move is when you get under the table and only need to use your bone and
Yeah,
keep your hand
that's a
up.
really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, it's definitely evolved over time. And going back to the standard pads, and WAL had 2 inches, I believe, or an inch. I think it was 2 inches to the rear of the pad.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
So
And
it
was like
really
kinda,
enabled like a king's move in outside arm wrestling.
mhm,
And it was unfair to those going inside.
mhm,
So I think that's kind of why we're seeing it be changed a little bit right
mhm,
now.
mhm.
But what do you guys think? Let us know below. Like, do you think the current setup for the table is correct? I know people like the Mac table, right? They're trying some new things up in Canada. Ian Carnegie trying to maybe evolve the sport. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But I'm excited. I think we're moving in the right direction as a sport.
Yeah, and also I guess in the comments below, let us know what tournament are you planning to go to in 2025. That's kind of at the top of your list. I know there's a lot. What is it? Armfighter.com has a really good list of tournaments that everyone's kind of submitting around the country. So yeah, if you're looking for any tournaments, that's a good place to look for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be a good year for arm wrestling. 2025, I think, is going to be the rocket year for arm wrestling.
I agree.
Because because the high five and knuckles up is bringing the greatest thing the arm wrestling has ever seen. Not like I'm biased at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
But one thing before we do finish up, I do want to remind people that in just a few short weeks, the High Five will be opening our world headquarters here in Belleville, New Jersey. We're going to have a state-of-the-art training facility. I'm talking the best equipment you can buy. We're going to be doing all our podcasts from there as well. So it's going to be super awesome. And of course, it'll be a place that will be open to the public that you can come stop in, get a training session, learn from myself, learn from Chris, learn our training methods, our styles, and how we essentially, I'm not afraid to say, are the best team in the United States. I think we're probably the most winning team too. I'm just gonna say it, Chris.
Yeah,
just gonna say it.
What I would say too, right, is it is obviously focused a lot about our team, but it is open to everyone. So the goal is if you're in that tri-state area, whether you're just visiting or if you kind of live in the area, by all means, we want you guys to stop by, kind of experience the facility.
Yeah,
it'll help all of us kind of grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Leroy saying he wants to grip up at the Arnold and possibly get that guitar that's in the background.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Leroy.
We'll see. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to be posting an awesome photo of our awards that were just finished up and are going to be in our hands soon for Knuckles Up 5. Guys, and if you are in the area, even if you're within 3, 4, 5 hours, it is definitely worth the drive to come to Knuckles Up 5 at the Barrymore Film Center. It is an awesome night. We have an after bowl. You can hang out with the athletes, meet and greet, all that awesome stuff. It's going to be a good time. Chris, do you have anything else? Wow, I am just talking like a great talk. How am I going to be an MC, Chris?
It's Friday.
It's been a long day at work. Who knows? But anything else for the people at home?
Yeah, I mean, again, for all those people that still need to register for the Arnold Classic, don't forget the deadline is going to be the end of this year, unless you're going to that last chance qualifier, which is going to be the following Wednesday. If you need to submit your registration form or if you have any questions, just email admin@thehighfiveaw.com. We'll get to you as soon as we can. There's tons of people registering as the days go on. So it's really exciting. It's going to be a really big tournament. I think we said around like 9 countries so far that we've done our count that's going to be attending.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be wild. And great question, Randy. Just to let you know, yes, there will definitely be a grand opening. We're going to call it a pull party. Get it instead of pool. We're going to have a pull party at the new headquarters once everything is up and running and ready to go. So stay tuned for that announcement as well. Guys, it's Will
and Chris
from The High Five and Knuckles Up. Keep arm wrestling. We'll talk to you guys soon.